Right. So just before we start working on this ABD configure, as you can see, we've got these little green clocks, which means that all of this is time dependent, which doesn't really make sense because there's no animation, because I do have a time shift at the beginning of this stream here. And for some reason it's still, well, you can see some of them are, and then after the, something to do with this for each loop. So what I'm going to do, just to, you know, if in case I play around and move the timeline, just drop a time shift, another one here, just freeze it to the first frame. Okay, and then you can see those, from this point on they go. You could put another one before here while you're working on here, but that doesn't kind of get stuck there. So in the ABD configure, we're going to be setting up a few, you know, our simulation properties on the actual geometry itself, and we'll do this here. So we can do a few groups to have different properties on different components. Right, so we'll start with the rig, I suppose. So we'll use the name attributes for that. The name is rig, and I want the same to be the suspension. Oh, suspension, like that. Okay, and an important thing we're going to do here is the collisions, right? So the rig and these kind of pieces, I don't want them to collide with anything, right? So we need to create a collision group. So that's just a group for these objects to tell the other pieces not to collide with them. Okay, and also we're going to collision ignore, so we're telling ourselves, these pieces, not to collide with anything else. Okay, so we have a collision group, which is the name to what can I collide with, and what can collide with me, sorry, and this is the name to pass on to other objects, and a collision ignore is the name of other groups. Okay, so we've got these now, which are, you know, the defaults that come out ground plane, that come out of a typical ABD sim, but we're gonna make groups also for the other pieces. So let's also, oh, we will need, sorry, I don't think any of the physical attributes actually aren't important for this because, yeah, it's not colliding with anything. Maybe some weight, so we can give it some density, so it kind of pushes down on the car. I'll do, what's that, 100,000? Yeah, that looks good. And then let's do the wheel. So its name is wheel. Okay, and so for this, again for the collisions, we want to call this wheel, and the collision ignore is just the rig. In this case, we don't want the wheel to ignore the ground or, you know, the body. And then we could just do wood for this. I know it's not wood, but it's, you know, something light. Dry and clean is fine there. Friction, I want these to be very grippy. I was trying to think, you know, the word frictiony, but I want them to be quite grippy so that they grip the ground, basically. Let's see what else. We also obviously need some attributes for the metal. So name is bendy with a couple of stars. Okay. And then for this, I'm going to work on the other ones we left at default, but the collision shapes here, I want them to be a bit smaller. Okay, because we've got lots of small pieces. And the collisions, again, we'll call these bendy. And the collision ignore, again, is going to be the rig, which should be in this group now here, yeah. Oops, the rig. Cool, and then, so this is going to be metal. Let's do, I think a car like this could be like aluminium. Density, I'm going to push up the density higher than, you know, what it says here. It's only 2000. I want a real sense of weight. So again, I'll do this to 100,000 and give it friction as well. That should be fine for everything, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and then we can, I'm just going to go back to the first frame, drop an ABD bullet solver. We're doing all of the sims in these solvers. Obviously, you know, you can do the same thing with a dot network and setting everything up yourself, but I just enjoy the convenience of this. You know, if there's anything I can't do in here, then obviously we'd move on to here, but we can achieve the results that we're looking for with this, so why not use it? You know, it's really, really handy. So grab the bullet solver. The first frame is going to be frame 77, which is our, you know, the beginning of our simulation. And then let's yeah, I'll build the collider now. So we've got a tube, which will be the actual pole, you know, the kind of lamppost or whatever it is, and we're going to make that a polygon. It's going to be in the y-axis. That's fine. We'll give it end caps and vertex normals, and let's move it into -10, -4.8 there. The radius, I want it to be a bit smaller, 0.05. Oops. 0.05. Gonna hide. The height doesn't matter too much. You know, it's passing through the floor, but that doesn't matter. We're not going to be, you know, it's not going to affect us in any way. Give it a bit more dense subdivision. There we go. Let me just drop a null for this. Out. Call for the collider. Now what I'm also going to do is just behind the pole is just put a box there that I'm going to animate as kind of like a, if you've seen, you know, like behind the scenes in when in practical effects in films where they have a ramp or a pole or some kind of explosion to push a car up to make the crash more dramatic. I'm going to kind of do a version of that myself by literally moving a box up and down. Okay, so let's just like I did before, we're going to do, yeah, polygon. Let's see, I'm going to put it in this position. -8.5. This position will animate in a moment. Well, the starting position, sorry, the first frame will be 0.6. And what do we have here? -5.5. And then we're going to rotate it a little bit. Okay, the box, let's see it. Let me just do it like that. Maybe we can visualize it there. Okay. I'm gonna do, I don't want this to be, I don't want the box to be part of the collider for later, you know, I don't want it to be rendered or anything like that. And this will go into the collision geometry. Cool, and then I'm going to animate this. So on the first frame will be the first frame of our simulation, which is 77. There we go. And I'm going to set a keyframe on the position in Y. Okay. And then over 2 frames, it goes up to 0.4. So it just raises up a little bit. You can see it's not a lot, just enough to kind of shove the car up a bit. Okay, set another keyframe there. And then another 2 frames, it goes back down to -0.5 on the ground, wherever it was before, just out of the way. Okay, so it's literally just a little bump, a little kick to push it up. You can see it's just kind of connecting with the frame there. But remember, this part of the frame is, the glue is not going to break, so it's not just going to bend it there. It will, you know, it will force the car to pop up just a little bit. Great. Okay, so next we'll configure all the settings in here and take a look at a nice simulation.